Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. And it won't be long. You'll be encouraged to wear your maroon on Fridays because football season will be here. And I can tell you guys, too, like when I was in the retail furniture business, back before I had all this hair, and looked like such a nice boy, that's one of the things that I push for, is that Fridays, everybody could wear like their school colors on Friday and Saturday. Saturday we were a little more, casual, I guess. But Fridays, everybody has like casual Fridays. Well, we expected our people to wear football jerseys on Friday and Saturday during football season because we're trying to sell those lazy boy recliners, right? And Action by Lane, all that kind of stuff. And big push every year to sell recliners that time of year. But I remember how much people enjoyed it. Not just because of the fact that, it made it easier to get ready on Friday, but people just enjoyed repping their team. It didn't matter if there was a high school team or a college team or an NFL team or whatever. It could be a fictitious team. It made no difference. There was just something about putting on a football jersey that kind of fired everybody up. And they sold a lot more recliners, too. I was in Natchitoches, Louisiana, as general manager, my first time as a GM. And we set up a recliner display where, like, the recliners were playing each other. We had, like, the PVC pipe, field goals. We had a football suspended from the ceiling like it was a kickoff, like the lazy boys were kicking off to Action by Lane. It was also kooky. And we made a swag, right? And we had all these pictures that we cut out of Athlon and Street and Smiths and stuff like that, and had that on the swag too. And it was a picture of Matt Wyatt, prominently displayed. And for the background, I got the Mississippi State band director at the time to send me a cassette of the famous Maroon Band playing the fight song. And I put it on loop. And so all day, every day, in that store, when you went to the recliner section, you got to hear the Mississippi State fight song. And some people were like, hey, I don't know why we don't do LSU. Well, you know what? Maybe get a general manager that cheers for LSU. But no, we're going to do Hell Durrell State, even though we're in Louisiana. And I guess, looking back in hindsight, maybe I should have done Northwestern State, because that was the local school. But, we donated enough to them as it was. But anyway, it was a lot of fun, right? And I bring that up just because of the fact that it's going to be here. It's like we're less than a month away. High school football starts, I think, next weekend for Jackson Prep. I think that's right. And then a couple weeks later, we get the high schools rolling here in the great state of Mississippi on the public school side. And so there'll be a lot of enthusiasm as we go out and support these young men. Of course, some of you got band kids, you got cheerleaders in your family. And again, I love high school football. And not just because of the fact that there's recruits there, right? That's the main reason we go. But I love the atmosphere. Like when I go over to Winona, man, number one, they treat me so well. Right? Everybody over there is so nice. Everybody. And, of course, I've been going so regularly, you see a lot of the same faces, but they're always glad you come. And they're always excited to see you. But the fun thing for me is like watching Winona and Grenada play. I know that's a rivalry. I don't know if they're playing this year. I didn't check the schedule. But it's like everybody turns out. Like the Grenada side is packed. Winona side is packed. And you got two great teams, a couple years ago, both of them won a state championship, right? So it was two communities that got together, and it was super cool, man. And again, we've covered high school football in so many different states, and we'll do it again this year. But it doesn't matter where I go. It doesn't matter if I'm in Georgia or Florida, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Texas, wherever. When I go to a high school football game, there is just something special about the communal spirit of everybody kind of getting off work and coming out and supporting the young people of their community. And I've shared this with you guys before, and it's been a while since we talked about it. I was once a high school baseball coach, as you guys know. If you need to make a charitable contribution for your taxes, I'm going to encourage you to consider investing in your high school booster club. Doesn't matter, if it's the band or if it's football or if it's baseball, if it's basketball, because I can tell you as a former high school coach, there were a lot of times that I went into my own pocket to make sure we had stuff. Sometimes you're out on the road and you've got a road game and all of a sudden you find out a couple kids either forgot money or didn't get money, or maybe they didn't get money and just told you they forgot it. We stop at McDonald's, they don't have anything to eat. Well, as a coach, I'm not going to let that happen, so I go in my pocket, right? I take care of those kids. There are times that we need a Diamond Pro. I'd go in my pocket and get it. Matter of fact, when one year, when I spoke at the Starkville Touchdown Club, they gave me that honorarium, a couple $100, $300, something like that. I took that money and I bought netting for our high school baseball field to kind of protect some of our spectators. We didn't have a lot of them. And so I share that just because I know that the majority of your high school coaches do the same thing. When there's not money in the budget or an unexpected expense pops up, they themselves will go in their pocket to take care of stuff. And so I just encourage you, because of the fact when these young men and women are out there representing our community, they deserve to be treated well. They deserve to have adequate facilities and good uniforms and things of that nature. And so I encourage you, again, if you are thinking about making a charitable contribution between now and the end of the year, consider your high school booster club. And on behalf of all the great high school coaches around this wonderful country of ours that coach both the young men and the young ladies in multiple sports, they will appreciate that far beyond anything you could ever imagine. And that's the thing, too. Like, a lot of times you think, hey, I'm going to give this money to this particular charity, and then you find out later that, these people are making millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars in salaries. And so the money you gave, maybe you don't see the impact from, but if you give it to your high school booster club, you're going to see the immediate impact of your money within your own community. So I don't make this speech very often, but again, I want to bring it up, especially with high school football beginning, because I had somebody hit me up the other day, trying to find a helmet for a kid. Because it was an unusual size, and they were trying to get a helmet for a young man, and were able to connect them with some other people. And those are the kinds of things that we want to use our platform for the betterment of student athletes on a high school level. And so even if you don't have a kid playing or attending that school, let me encourage you to invest in your own community. We always talk about, well, what can we do? It seems like the kids are always doing this. Well, you know what? If we give them a better alternative and we support them, then maybe we can make a difference in somebody's life. My feelings. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. They're very civically minded. Man, I love the Eat With Us group. I do. To honest to goodness, I could eat every single day at an Eat With Us restaurant. I could do it every day. Because between everything that they put out there, Bulldog Burger Company and Central Station Grill and Harvey's, of course, the flagship, and Sweet Pepper's Deli, there's always something that'll feed whatever craving I have. And I love it, man. I love the quality of the presentation. The meal is so great. And Bulldog Burger Company, of course, is our sponsor. But I want to stump for all of them. And again, as school is beginning, and we got people moving in this weekend, I guarantee you, aunt and uncle, your favorite Mississippi State student would love to have that Eat With Us gift card. They'd love to have a night out on you to kind of celebrate, beginning college or continuing college or beginning their senior year. It's a great idea. I'm so glad that you thought of it. And so think about that here in the days ahead. Maybe you got $50 or $100 or whatever, and you think, you know what? We bought them a graduation gift, but we weren't really involved in the move-in thing. What could we do to kind of make the experience a little bit better? Well, and Eat With Us. Go to eatwithus.com and get that Eat With Us gift card. And you can get one just for Bulldog Burger Company, or you can get one that they can use at all of the Eat With Us restaurants. That may be your best bet, right? And you never know. You may be buying dinner for the date that means everything, right? Right? You may have the young man in your life. It's taking young lady out on your dime. Could be the beginning of something magical. Wouldn't that be cool too? You got to think about those things, man. You never know what a difference you're going to make in somebody's life. But Bulldog Burger Company, of course, our great sponsor, been with us for a long time. Love them so much. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Star Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. Get that chocolate shake to go. You can ride that ride home with a smile. Bulldog Burger Company, the place for people to go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay, we've got some things to get into. We're going to talk a little bit about what Jeff Lebby had to say. Got a cool top 10 list for you. Some of you are going to think it's cooler than others. And I'll be honest with you, it's not as cool to me as maybe it's going to be to some of you, because this band holds the most listened to top 10 list in the history of the show. And one of you, incredibly beautiful listeners of mine, reached out and said, "Hey, Steve, could you do this?" Oh, of course I can. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, in our first segment, we're going to wrap up kind of where we are with the Protect College Sports Act. And we'll talk about, again, what your coaches and players have had to say in the last couple days since we've been together. And we'll have an opportunity to have more players Saturday evening. So look for that content Saturday night and on into Sunday morning. So the PCSA, of course, there was talk earlier this week. They were trying to expedite things and had the call for cloture and then have a vote today. Of course, like everything else in Washington, nothing ever goes the way you want it to. So there was some amendments that were added. They're trying to get that stuff resolved. And at the end of the evening today, there is talk that, hey, this thing may go into the weekend. If it doesn't get taken care of tonight or this weekend, and they may not even have a weekend session. There are some that are supporting that. Of course, the executive branch of our government has come out and said, hey, quit grandstanding, get this thing done, quit stalling. We got to save college sports. There's a possibility it gets kicked to September. And, the one thing that I'll say, too, is there's a lot of people like myself that are sports journalists that are kind of digging into the political side. And while we have a working knowledge of that stuff, we're learning, too. And the reason I say that is because you see a lot of these he loves me not tweets. Oh, this happened. Oh, that's it. Oh, this happened. Oh, it's back on. There's going to be some ebb and flow in politics. And there's a lot of people, as you guys know, that they're going to object or they're going to offer an amendment just for the sake of it, right? We talked about that leading up to all of this, that there's going to be people that grandstand so they can go back and look at their constituents in the eye and say, hey, I went and fought for you. But that's just part of this process, right? It's just how it is. And, of course, people will release statements that don't have a lot of influence. And then all of a sudden that makes headlines, and it's like, oh, well, this organization says don't support it. And then you go find out they have less than 3% of the vote, right? But they made a statement. And ultimately they made headlines, which is really what they want. They know that they do not have the power to stop this. They just want some attention, right? It happens all the time. Then somebody else will come out, now this group is supporting it. Oh, it makes headlines, right? And so there's a lot of posturing that goes on with politics, as I'm sure you're well aware. But a lot of people, of course, maybe since there was a civics class that you were a part of, an American government class, you probably hadn't paid attention to kind of how the legislative process works. So nothing that has happened has been a big surprise. There have been some things that have been a disappointment, but not a surprise, right? And so hopefully we can get it done this weekend. If not, it goes to September, and I think that's not great, but it doesn't mean that it's over. And, of course, with so many people pushing to get it done, I feel like it'll get done at some point. You'd love to see it get done this weekend, just so that way the House can deal with it when it gets passed. And, again, it's just amazing to me. It's like, I'll give you a great example. Okay, like I live in Starkville. And I will tell you this, I've been downtown the last couple days. Our downtown area looks great. And I've always loved downtown. I since the moment that I moved here, that's back when I used to run all the time, and I would run that loop. I would run like the Frostbite half marathon loop. That's what I would do. And of course, you park downtown and then you make that run all through the neighborhoods, and you come back by the cemetery and you work your way through campus. And then I used to love that final push back to the car downtown. The lights were all lit up. I said, man, I love living here. I love our downtown area. And guys, it looks even better now. It does. It looks great. Great. And I've been very critical about some of the delays, and I'm still going to be critical about some of that stuff. But again, I don't know that job. But I can tell you, for those of you that come during football season and you go downtown, you're going to be pleased with that. It looks great. It does. But here's the thing. Doesn't mean we couldn't have done some things better. And one of the things that I found out just yesterday, like one of my banks downtown, one of them, I had to go do some business downtown. And, of course, the day that I had to go and do all that stuff, you couldn't even park down there because they had decided that they had to do some work. I found out later there was some uncovered infrastructure work that they were kind of unaware of they had to correct. And so you want to get it all done, right, while you got the trucks out there. So they got all that stuff done. So again, I don't know that job. But what I do know is that there are a lot of things that happen even in city and local politics that a lot of people have strong opinions about, including myself, without having a lot of knowledge of the situation. And there's some Facebook groups out there of the greater Starkville area and things like that. And the thing, and again, it's almost like some of our beloved fans in the Facebook groups that just are kind of casual fans. They don't keep up, and it's like, hey, who's our quarterback this year? It's like, are you kidding me? That's what you think, but you don't respond that way. You should see some of these people that talk about city government, some of these groups. Are you kidding me? It's like, what? What? And again, that's life in the big city. And I am very much a First Amendment advocate. And I think the best and worst thing about social media is everybody that can use it. And some people expose their ignorance every day. And that's okay. They've got the right to look foolish if they choose to. So I just kind of bring that in because there's a lot of people that need to go take an online civics course before they go post about this stuff. But I find that so much of this fascinating because, as you guys know, a lot of these deals, it's like, okay, we want to get this thing done. What do we got to do to get you to vote? Well, I'll tell you what. I'll vote for you on your PCSA. However, I've got this bill that's been stuck in your committee, and I need your help on this. And it's like, okay, well, I'll tell you what. We'll trade vote for vote. If you can do this, I'll do that. There's a lot of that that'll go on. Hopefully tonight so we can get a vote this weekend. But there is a lot of that back and forth. And, man, we have some tremendous bulldogs in state legislature. We didn't always. Not that there wasn't a great assortment of great bulldogs. It's just for a long time we just really didn't have the voice we deserved in the Mississippi state legislature. We do now. Got some great bulldogs that have really done a lot to help Mississippi State. And I share that just because of the fact it's kind of the same thing in the federal government area too. Whether you want to admit it or not, there are a lot of people up there that are working on behalf of the Southeastern Conference. There are a lot of people up there too that know that they believe this thing is going to pass and they're ultimately going to vote for it, but they're going to use some of these amendments and these delays to kind of get what they want. And so, again, I can't tell you for sure how this thing is going to go, but I'll tell you, with all the work that's been put in, it would be a shame if this thing didn't get done this weekend. Even if it gets kicked to September, it could still be okay. But the last thing that we need to do is have to go back to the drawing board on this. We have got to have a semblance of law when it comes to college athletics. And they made a comment later that there's still some NIL language we're trying to clear up and that sort of stuff. And what's so interesting to me about all of this is there are a lot of people that are involved in all this that don't know anything about college sports. right? Well, and that's the case for everything. There's a lot of people that'll vote for, farm subsidies that don't know anything about agriculture, right? And that's one of the reasons that we have debates and we have committees and things of that nature, and we have all this stuff that happens. So it's just kind of important to let the process play out, and we'll hope for the best. And I'm not huge fans of this process. I'm not huge fans of the authors of this bill. I just want what's best for college athletics, and in turn what's good for Mississippi State. That's what I want. Because as long as this unbridled spending continues, we're going to get outspent. And that's not poor mouthing, that's just a reality. And listen, hey, we're outspending a lot of people too. And there's a lot of people that were our contemporaries 20 years ago that are no longer our contemporaries because of the massive TV deal and money that we've been getting every year. And it's so interesting, people see these numbers pop up and say, Steve, the cap's going to be almost $50 million. Guys, we're almost there now. Like, we're almost spending that amount of money now. When you begin to think about rev share and NIL, we're not that far off, right? And we may be a team in a program that doesn't always push the cap. And that's okay too. But it's important. You see these now. There's no way we can compete. Well, you're wrong. You're wrong. Okay, we're not broke, right? We're not broke. But if we continue operating the way we have now, and again, there were people that said it, and people love to point this out when it fits their narrative. There were plenty of people in college leadership around the country that said way back in 2022 that this is not sustainable. This NIL model is not sustainable. And then, next thing you know, we get collectives. And that helped a lot, but then people said, you know what, I don't even think this is sustainable. And so next thing you know, we get into rev share. And that was one of the things that we talked about on this show for 4 or 5 years, that at some point, the TV money is going to pay the student athlete. And we're going to look back and say, I can't believe that sometimes that the fans had to fund the payroll of a team through NIL. We're not to that point yet, but by and large, that's what's happening. The schools are paying the players with the proceeds of the TV deal. And so things are, maybe going the way we expected in the end, but man, it has been such a wild ride. And honestly, I'm tired of talking about all this stuff. I wish they'd go ahead and pass this, and then we can put a pin in it for a while and then wait and see what happens when the House picks it up. And hopefully that'll be maybe just a few days or whatever, we can get that thing done and get it to the White House for a signature. But again, as I've shared a couple times, if and when this thing is signed into law, we will still operate under the same rules until that effective date. And I've had somebody with knowledge of the process tell me there's just no way you can do it in the middle of this athletic and academic year. So all of the fundraising and things and like that and all the contributions and things that you guys have not committed to, that will continue. And we need that to continue because this may be the last year we get to operate under those rules. And that's important to understand too, just because of the fact that if and when this law gets passed, it doesn't immediately go into effect. So you don't need to go out there and cancel your, your monthly donations. You absolutely don't want to do that. There will come a time in the event that this law is enacted that we'll be given some direction on kind of what to do with that. And so it's important to understand that. So right now, you don't need to do anything except continue to give, buy your tickets, show up, ring your cowbell, support the Bulldogs. If you're not a donor, you're not a season ticket holder, you can still make your contribution on social media and support Mississippi State, right? It takes all of us, right? And that's important for everybody to kind of understand. Maybe you don't have a lot of influence because you don't have the financial wherewithal to give what you'd love to, but you can still be a very positive and supportive Mississippi State fan. And I'm not saying there's not things to be negative about. I'm negative sometimes too, and I can promise you I'm more negative with my friends and family about some of the things that happen than I am with all of you. I'll take some time and kind of calm down and try to be a voice of reason in that respect. But there are some times that you might misconstrue me as somebody else if you heard me in a passionate and emotional argument of disappointment as it relates to Mississippi State athletics. But we dress it back up, we recover, and we get ready to go as the rains begin to come in the greater Starkville area. So we will keep you updated as best we can. Hopefully we get back together on Monday. This thing has passed the Senate. If not, we won't have to talk about it again for a while because it'll be a month from now before the measure's even taken back up. And that's important to understand. And, of course, things get really convoluted ahead of the midterm elections, right? And that's going to be a big part of, once they get back from recess and we get into the fourth quarter, that's going to be so much of that is going to be about elections. And so this is probably our best chance to get it done now without any further delays. So we'll see what happens. But I'm eager to get this thing done just because of the fact that I think Mississippi State benefits from most of the protections within this law. This bill, we'll call it for now. Again, there's some give and take. There's some things we're going to have to give up in order to get the things that we really value, right? And there's some things the smaller conferences had to kind of give up. And again, them worrying about, revenue generated by the Big Ten and the SEC is just, that's not at all what they needed to be worried about because they're never going to be in that arena, right? That'd be like me just all of a sudden, feeling like that I should be able to decide, things that are far beyond me. Gene's Page will decide what IBM's going to do this year or what Apple's going to do. It shouldn't matter like that. And so it's just important for everybody to kind of maybe take a deep breath right now, and as things kind of maybe check it out every once in a while. But there's no point sitting there watching C-SPAN all weekend like it's a college football game and just kind of waiting for something to cheer about. Number one, don't know a lot about the process, and kind of like that with football, and a lot of people too. But we'll keep you abreast of it as best we can. And again, don't be surprised if it gets kicked to September. But again, I think the best thing that could happen is somehow we can get a passage this weekend, get a vote in the Senate. And again, there are a lot of people incredibly committed to getting this thing done. It's not just some passing fancy. There are people that have invested a lot of time and effort, and a lot of college leaders have gone up and shared their thoughts all throughout college sports. You had the Power 4 group, you had some G5 programs, you had so many people that went. And so it's not like that the authors of the bill haven't done their due diligence. And, of course, they reach out across the aisle to make this a bipartisan effort and then reach out to college leaders and say, okay, what do you not like about the bill? What can we tailor to get you guys to sign off on this? And so in that respect, even though it's not perfect legislation, it has been a collaborative effort between the federal government and college leaders from all levels to try to find a way to get this thing done. And that's one of the most important things, too. How often do you see that? A bipartisan effort where the affected parties are also part of crafting the legislation. It just doesn't happen very often. And so you'd hate to see that much effort and that sense of cooperation wasted because a few people out there want to add their own amendments and put their stamp on it. I think a lot of it, too, some people just want credit. There's some people that maybe had opposing bills or had competing bills and they had their own ideas. And then, so it's like, oh, well, they went with his bill but not our bill. And so, yeah, ultimately I'm going to vote for this, but I want to make them sweat a little bit. If you don't think those kinds of things happen in politics, you're kidding yourself. But again, we were hoping for a vote today. Unless one happens this evening, probably best case scenario is Saturday, and then we'll see how things go. And maybe before the show ends, we'll have maybe an update on that as a parting shot. All right, time for today's Top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR.com. Blair Chandler is my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. And since we're all friends, you deserve to have his phone number, 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. That goes directly to Blair. You can call or text him direct, or you can go to the website and contact him there. The reason you need that name and number is you never know when life's going to throw you a curveball. Maybe you got to pick up and move again. Maybe you get a lifestyle change, relationship change, familial change. Maybe you're starting over. Maybe you're starting fresh. Let Blair do some of the heavy lifting for you. 25 years of experience in this meat grinder of an industry. He can get you to the closing table when so many others can't. He knows how to construct loans to give you the best chance for approval. Don't overthink it. Just stick with the winner. Stick with Blair Chandler. And, maybe you've been turned down before. It's very frustrating. Maybe you just had the wrong loan officer. And if you're not ready, Blair can put you on a path to get ready. And then get you that pre-qualification letter so your real estate agent knows your financing is going to be approved. It's a life hack they don't tell you about. So whether it's your first home, your next home, your retirement home, or perhaps that game day condo that you so coveted, let Blair Chandler do the work for you at closeatblair.com. All right. Candace reaches out, and apparently Candace is a fan of the glam band Poison. I'm not a huge fan. You guys are aware. And in that aspect of things, the irony in that is you guys had the Poison top 10 list as the most downloaded top 10 list in Boneyard history. I've had to learn to live with that. I have learned to live with how it hurts. But anyway, I like some stuff from Poison, and I told you guys before, like Something to Believe In is a great song. It is my favorite Poison song of all time, and it's not even close. And I like Talk Dirty to Me. I like some of that stuff. But the reality of it is that I like bands that were a little more serious. And listen, everything in the 80s is about having a good time, and I would submit to you that Nothing But a Good Time is probably the quintessential 80s rock song. It's hard for me to admit, but I give them their props, right? So Candace wants to know that it's on our list today. One of my favorite songs from Poison is actually a cover song. Are there some other Poison covers out there that I missed? Well, as a matter of fact, Candace, there are. Poison did an entire covers album called Poisoned. So they took some of their favorite songs, they covered them, and put their own Poison Revlon rocker goodness on them. So I'm going to rank them 10-1. And Candace, your favorite song is number 1. Number 10, it's Just What I Needed from the Cars. And I can tell you, this works a lot better than you might think. I'm not a huge C.C. DeVille guy. I think he's really sloppy. I don't think he's a very technical player at all. Some of you guys loved him. They love the image, the big blonde hair and stuff, and they love the 2 and 3 chord progressions and the 1-string solos. But nevertheless, they kill it on this. You say, well, Steve, why is it number 10? Well, I wanted to start off on a very positive note. I think you'll enjoy their rendition of the Cars' classic, Just What I Needed. Number 9, and this is something that was probably a little bit of a surprise for me, that they picked this song to cover because it doesn't really match the Poison catalog, but it's Suffragette City from David Bowie. And everybody loves David Bowie that's been in music because Ziggy Stardust kind of influenced so much of the glam era. But yeah, it's decent, okay? Number 8, another one that kind of surprises me. And they do a pretty good job on it, to be honest with you. It's I Need to Know from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. That's maybe an underappreciated Tom Petty track, to be quite honest with you. And so I respect the fact that they kind of breathe new life into it. One that is kind of an interesting one, it's called Little Willie, and it is the first track on the Poisoned album. It's from The Sweet, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's kind of Aerosmith-ish, when it comes to double entendre. But Little Willie, number 7. Number 6, they do a decent job here too. But this is one of those songs for me that I just don't think you mess with. But a lot of people jam this song. A lot of people have these, end of tour type or end of show. Like all the bands get on stage and everybody knows it. It's anthemic. But it's Kiss's Rock and Roll All Night at number 6. Number 5. Another song that's kind of wrapped an innuendo. It's Squeezebox from The Who at number 5. It's not bad either. Now, the rest of these, I think, are really good. Number 1, obviously, is great, but I think the rest of these are really good. Number 4, it's the great Dead Flowers from the Stones. And, of course, if you know the Keith Richards catalog, you know he absolutely kills it on this. And CeCe, again, maybe not the same soulful player that Keith Richards is, and not many are, but it's a pretty good rendition. I think the guitar's not bad either. Number 3, this surprised me, to be honest with you. A lot of people have covered this song. My favorite cover of this is by Black Stone Cherry. But it's the Marshall Tucker Band's Can't You See? And at some point, every young man from my generation and before has sung this song through the throes of heartbreak. Because can't you see what that woman's doing to me? Yeah, and to hear Bret Michaels sing that, I thought, well, this is going to be interesting. It actually works out pretty well. Number 2, and man, I tell you what, of maybe the ones you don't know as well, this is the best one. This is absolutely the best one. I love the original. I love Grand Funk Railroad. I don't think they get enough respect. And this is around the time we're having the second British invasion, and Grand Funk comes out with We're an American Band. Everybody knows that track. And Ricky Rocket, I've never thought he was a great technical player. He's a great showman. He does a great job on this. Does a great job on this. And We're an American Band from Grand Funk is number 2. And again, it makes a lot of sense. But number 1, and a song that you know, and of course originally recorded by Loggins and Messina, that's Kenny Loggins. It's Your Mama Don't Dance and Your Daddy Don't Rock and Roll. Out of the car, long hair, you're coming with me to the local police. Yeah, it's great. And it was a huge hit for Poison. And so, yeah, Candace mentioned that to me and said, hey, that's my favorite Poison cover. And so I agree. I think it's the best of them. And maybe it's because of the nostalgia of the whole thing. Maybe it's because of the fact that it takes me back to my high school years. And also makes me realize, too, that, that it was just a lot of fun, right? And I think when you go back and you listen to some of that stuff, a lot of it doesn't hold up. I'm not just speaking specifically about Poison. There's some bands from the 80s that, they didn't have a lot of substance. Let's just be honest about that. And there were a lot of albums that had a lot of filler. And that became kind of the catchphrase, all killer, no filler, right? There was a lot of filler because they come up with 1 or 2 good singles, and the record companies were trying to capitalize on the success of the Golden Goose. So they wanted to get that new album out as quickly as they could. And so they'd polish those things up and push them out to you. And you go back and listen in hindsight, and you're like, I remember singing this song, and it's really not that great, right? There was a special time in our lives where we thought all that stuff was great. And again, in my generation, we didn't download singles, we bought albums. Occasionally we'd buy a cassette single or something. You think, well, you don't have the money to go out and buy the full album. Money was a little more scarce back then. You think the economy's bad now. But yeah, you had to go cut grass, and maybe you got $10 for cutting somebody's grass, and then you immediately went and bought a new cassette or CD. So that's kind of how it worked. We couldn't get enough. And I still have all of my CDs. I don't have anything to play them on, but I have them. And I used to have all my long boxes, and most of you don't remember that. That was a big thing. Like all the environmentalists, like, dude, they're putting these long boxes out. And so it'd be basically the album cover in this big rectangular box. And then, the box got bigger, and because the artwork was more dramatic and more extensive, we collected them. Some of us did. And then eventually they went to these reusable plastic long boxes. So then somebody at, Camelot or Sound Shop had to go through and put all of those brand new CDs into those log boxes. And then they were recyclable, and, it's just things we did, But the reality of it is, made it harder to steal them too, right? It did. That's true. It's true. And I'm not going to tell you how I know, but I know it's true too. But nevertheless, it was a great time. And again, Poison in many respects, kind of the soundtrack of our lives from our teenage years. Because everybody knew every rose has its thorn. Everybody knew that, right? And everybody had felt that. And that's the thing where I think Brett was a good timing guy, as you guys know. But also, too, the ballads that they put together, too, you could tell Bret Michaels, while he may not have been the best singer of the 80s, and he wasn't, but the guy could write a good love song. And every rose has its thorn. Of course, when Bill and Ted went to heaven, they asked him, what's the meaning of life? And they quoted, every rose has its thorn. Well, what a compliment, right, to Bret Michaels. Pretty cool stuff. So if you have ideas for the top 10 list like Candace did, you can reach out and let us know. Even if I don't like your band, I will give you a good effort, okay? There are some bands, of course, I don't know as well. When I'm traveling, I try to familiarize myself, and sometimes I just can't do it. Sometimes I get a couple songs in, I'm like, I just don't think it's going to work out. I don't know if I can do it justice, but if you send the suggestion, we'll certainly give it a shot. And I love the fact when people are more creative and kind of challenge me. I had somebody recently ask me to do, I haven't done it, and I don't know if we ever will, if I would do a top 10 about songs about death. I just don't know what you're going through, and I don't want to be like give somebody the soundtrack to depression. I guess we could work in Children of the Grave from Black Sabbath, or I don't know, maybe I don't know, Cemetery Gates from Pantera. Maybe we can do that. It's interesting too. Speaking of Pantera, I had lunch yesterday, and I typically wait to go middle of the afternoon so I can kind of eat in peace. But get all the work done, take a late lunch, and we eat a little bit later dinner too. But that's the schedule of life that we have. But a lot of times I just like to go eat in peace. But yesterday I was really craving something. I went to a local restaurant, and deputy from the sheriff's department comes up, and he goes, hey, I recently got this tattoo, and my tattoo artist said that they did a Pantera piece for me. Well, I don't really have a Pantera piece. I've got a Pantera shout out in my left arm sleeve. I have CFH for Cowboys from Hell. And so I feel like that I'm repping Dime and the guys. And I'm excited too. I didn't get a chance to go. And maybe at some point we will. And I will be honest with you, my interest in going and watching live music has waned a little bit in the last year or so. Because back in 2022, when Dana was travel nursing, as you guys, it's well documented, I was at a rock show, there was 1 month I went to 5. And, it's like, hey, why not? And then eventually I was kind of feeling guilty. I was like, I wouldn't want her going back without me. And number one, things are just more fun for me when she's there. They kind of share the experience. And next month, of course, Roy and I are going out to San Antonio to see Maiden. And I'm pumped about that. But I'd like to see the new Pantera lineup. I would. Charlie Benante, of course, who married the incredibly attractive Carla Harvey, on drums, and then Zach Wilde playing guitar, and then you've got Rex and Phil, and it's incredible to see, they were selling out everywhere. It's nuts, and especially in a time when it's difficult to sell concert tickets, and they were able to get it done. And so, that many people can't be wrong. I had a chance to go see him in Memphis, and a buddy of mine was going, and he actually got pulled up on stage and got to sing To Walk. Yeah, got to be like the crowd thing, you talking to me, boy. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit now, so we're going to get back to it. But, hit us up, let us know. Send your suggestions to Roy Samanti on X at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC67. You can find our great list on Spotify under the same handle. And, of course, I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution, man. We love Campus Bookmart. Well, why? Well, they got the stuff we want, right? It's just that simple. When it's gift buying time in your life, or maybe it's time to treat yourself, look no further than Campus Bookmart. They have the best selection of Mississippi State merchandise in the known universe. There's so many things you can choose from. When you walk in there, you're going to wish you got a raise because there's going to be so many things you're going to want to bring home with you. It's true. So whether you're looking for apparel, the gift idea, perhaps decorative items for your own home or office, your game day condo, you can find everything you need to outfit everything and everybody at Campus Bookmart. If you can't make it to see them when you're in town, perhaps game day is a difficult shopping day for you, check them out on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net, courtesy of Al Gore's Internet. And use promo code BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. All right, we had Jeff Lebby on Thursday, and then we had 4 players on Friday. We'll get a few more Saturday evening. On Friday we had Fluff Bothwell, Cannon Boone, Jordan Gilbert, and Calvin Dinkins. And again, you can read those features for free at genespage.com. We don't need your email address. You don't have to sign up. You don't need a password or anything like that. You don't even have to log in. You just walk over there and surf your way over there, and you can watch the videos in their entirety, or you can read the features, whatever accommodates you, right? Whatever meets your needs. And again, we'd love for you to come join us 60% off during the month of August as we get ready for football season. But you don't have to. We'd love for you to, and we think you should, but all this big room stuff, we just make it easily accessible. So it's not behind a paywall. You don't have to do anything other than just pull up, Gene's Page. And just Google Gene's Page and follow the link from there. But I really thought Lebby was upbeat on Thursday. And, it's interesting. Everybody's excited to get camp started, but I don't remember a time maybe when Lebby was quite this positive. Now, he is the eternal optimist. That's one thing that I'll tell you for sure. He is one of those folks that kind of sees, the better part of life. And he's the kind of guy that feels like we'll figure it out. We'll find a way to win. We'll find a way to compete. And so I shared that just because that's kind of in his nature. But even with that in mind, I thought he was really good Thursday. And he has been accused at times of being a little coach speaky. I didn't think he really was on Thursday. I didn't think so. And I can't remember who asked the question, but it was about, hey, we had spring, and of course, spring was very important, especially for the defensive side, because new calls, new checks, new terminology, just a new way of doing things. And Leb said there's a lot more comfort than there was day one of spring ball. So there's really been good growth day one, so much work to do. Talk about intent, our guys have had it. They've been great here in the building as we've been back since Monday evening. Man, it's a ton of work to do, but the intent's really good and just effort and energy. I really like where that piece is because we controlled that. I look forward to watching the tape, getting a great lift, recovering, and doing it again. End of quote. So, yeah, a lot of work to do. Absolutely. He says it twice and probably could have said it 10 times. It's well established, right? It's the first day of camp. But I asked him, and it's kind of what I typically do, as we begin spring or fall, to get this question in there. Because, we had some guys in the spring that were limited, as you guys were, like Zachary Tillman was one of them, right? Had off-season surgery. Isaac Smith was a guy that had, that typewriter procedure, for those of you that are familiar with that. He had that procedure. Even Camario, had some cleanup work to do. But, of course, Camario was full go in the spring. But we protected some guys in the spring to give them plenty of time to heal. So you asked, again, this is a routine question at the beginning of camp. Any health concerns? Right? How healthy are you going into camp? And so Leb says, yeah, we've got a couple things going on that I'll wait to comment on, kind of get a little more info on. Right now, we're in a pretty good spot. We've got to keep it that way while getting the work that we need. That's the reality of it. There's a fine line. We've got to continue to develop the back half of our roster. The best player we made a mistake here. The best players have to continue to develop the right way and get reps. But come that first Saturday, we've got to be fresh and fast. We understand that, and we'll go about it the right way. End of quote. So the concerning part of this is, hey, we got a couple things going on. And when we say we're waiting to get a little more information on it, I interpret that. This is my interpretation and my opinion. Okay, this is not based on any factual data. Just 30 years of doing this, it sounds like to me we got a couple of guys that maybe we're waiting on some test results from. Now, we were out there practice, didn't see any notables missing. We had one guy, a transfer linebacker from Florida State, James Hurd, that was in a non-contact yellow jersey. We'll do our best next week to kind of work through it again with a more maybe scrutinizing eye, just to go through every personnel group to see if there's anybody that's conspicuously absent. And again, I don't know if we get any updates on that anytime soon, but it is something that we will continue to chase. But it could be a situation where it's just a minor thing, and maybe we've got some treatment we've got to do to get guys ready. We don't know the extent of it, but it is something that kind of raises the radar a little bit, and so it's something that we watch. But hey, Camario was good, Fluff was good, Anthony Evans. The notables were all present and accounted for. And then of course, we get Fluff available today, and they don't make players available when they're not full participants in practice. That's just that's a standard protocol around college athletics. If a guy is banged up, because you don't want to run the risk of him saying something on the record, or maybe somebody has some insider knowledge and they ask him, so you just don't make those guys available. So anytime that they make guys available, you should feel kind of assured that they're in good condition. Interesting too, comment about the depth, and you can read this in its entirety over Gene's page. I love the competition. I think that's what we have as much as anything for us. You need that insider program. We have that more today than we had, and there's no question about it. And the offensive line, the defensive line, linebacker, and the secondary, there's real competition at receiver. So for us, that's a great thing, a great motivator, and that's why we've got to get reps and continue to develop the entire thing, end of quote. So I concur with Lebby's assessment. Now, when we went out there year one, and I think everybody in the media was probably pretty honest about this. It's like, we got some guys, but we don't have a lot of guys, and we're probably like an injury away from really having a problem. I think most people were consistent with that. I suspect that's the case, because I don't think anybody walked out there and said, oh, man, this team's going to go win 8-9 games. Nobody felt that way. I don't think anybody in Brian Haydad's preseason poll even picked us to have a winning record. I don't think that's the case. I think the best case scenario was 6-6. And then, of course, when Blake Shapen got injured, the chances of that happening were slim and none. Lose that Florida game and lose Shapen and have to put a true freshman out there. We were thinking maybe Chris Parson, but that, again, should say a lot about how Jeff Lebby thought that Parson maybe fit into this scheme. But that's all ancient history now. But last year, I think we all went out there as the media collective, and I think we all agreed, hey, this roster looks a little more like an SEC roster. So we upgraded. But we knew we didn't have a ton of depth, but we knew that we had more dudes. And again, that showed last year. It showed on the field. And again, not just in the 5 wins, but in a handful of other games that we're a play away from winning. I think that's important to understand. This year's roster, there's no question. It's the best roster Jeff Lebby's had, without any question. Not just from a talent standpoint, from a size standpoint, from a depth standpoint. It's not even close. And I think that, again, there are some people that are probably sleeping on us, and that's fine. Let them sleep. But I believe this, again, is Jeff Lebby's best chance so far to go out there and compete at a high level. And again, we didn't win at a high level last year. We competed at a high level last year. And this group is better than that group. I don't think anybody would disagree. Anybody that has observed any practice would disagree at all. I think everybody, if you polled everybody in the media that had spent some time at practice on Thursday, I would just about venture to say that everybody would agree with me. The look of this team is tremendously better. We've taken another step in roster construction. And again, we don't know, who all's banged up. We don't know. But again, you guys last year, Coates tore his ACL, and I don't think anybody knew until the season, And again, that was a backup defensive tackle that we took. So again, it wasn't something that was going to really win or lose us a ball game. But again, you hate for any young man wearing the maroon and white to get injured, any student athlete, no matter their gender or sport or whatever. But there's going to be some, injuries in the game of football. It's just kind of how life works. But you want to be able to get through camp and be able to get into the season. Speaking of people that have had some injuries, Calvin Dinkins spoke with us today, and I love Dink. I really do. He is he's a guy that exudes confidence. And of course, back-to-back years, we lost him for the season in the season opener. Well, last year he got a full year under his belt. And you guys began to see one of the reasons that we recruited him in Florida, recruited him in the first place. I mean, he is a guy that can eat up space, and he's athletic enough to make a difference in the middle. Well, now, seeing him now, he is incredibly different than he was the day we got him. And you would think that's the case after, 3 years in a college weight room. But, he was one of those guys, too, because of our lack of depth. A couple years ago, we had to kind of press him into service before he was ready. And the fact that he was playing extensively in the season opener in 2024 says a lot about our depth that year. And so it's all well documented. But again, as far as the look test goes, and some of these guys too, the younger guys got here, for spring, and some other guys kind of enrolled a little bit later. I think that's one of those things you look at and say, okay, we got a good look at the team in the spring, but now we get a chance to see them after, 3-4 months of work. That's one of the things that I think is the big benefit of being able to go to practice. Not just to see who's in a yellow jersey or maybe who's not there, but just to kind of see the progress of these guys. And we run around really well. We do. We run around. And we didn't get a chance to watch team drills, and that's just part of the deal. But it's an exciting part to kind of see. We need something to feel good about on the football side, and I think that's one of the things you can have some confidence with, is that we have done a good job in the offseason. And did we do a great job? I can't tell you that. But as far as getting SEC quality athletes, we've done that. And again, watching that secondary, watching just in drills, running around out there, it's a different look. And again, you begin to think about the receivers you're bringing back, right? You lose Brennan, but you bring Anthony Evans and Frisco and Aiden Williams back. That's great returners, especially considering that Frisco was still kind of figuring it out last year, and Aiden was kind of banged up. Now you bring in Marquise Johnson from Missouri and Zion Reagans from Oklahoma. Again, Marquise had a little more production. Zion didn't have a whole lot. But Jeff Lebby has found production in the portal wide receiver. He will know how to utilize these guys too. And so when you look at the totality of the receiving corps this year compared to last year, I think it's pretty safe to say that even without Brennan Thompson as a group, we are better. There's a little more depth within the room, right? And what's interesting too, Jeff Lebby mentioned Camden Capehart. I did not expect to hear Camden Capehart's name mentioned this early in camp. First day of camp, he's like, hey, Camden had a really good day. I really thought Camden probably needed a year to redshirt, kind of add a little mass. Fastest kid in Texas. Won the 100 meters with 3 years in a row. An incredible athlete. But a lot of times these speedsters need to put on a little mass. It's because of the fact that that they drop weight to be as fast as they possibly can, and they carry so much of their muscular development in their lower half. But Camden was specifically pointed out unsolicited by Jeff Lebby. And so not saying he's going to play, but again, we've got a few more toys to play with, and I think that's one of the most important things as you kind of get to this day. Looking at some stuff from today, and again, you can go read these in their entirety for free at Gene's page. I was impressed with Jordan Gilbert, too. Now, he's a guy that signed with A&M, transferred to LSU. Now he ends up at Mississippi State. And, again, he's coming to us with a really good foundation. And as he mentioned today, Mississippi State was his first SEC offer coming out of White Castle. Not the hamburger joint, the high school in Louisiana. But it's interesting, you're just kind of talking to him. He just seems to be a guy that gets it, right? And he was asked kind of specifically about, the younger players. Even though he's new to us, he's not new to the SEC. He's not new to the game of college football. But ask about the younger guys. Gilbert says, I'm just pouring into them. I'm telling them what they should do and what they shouldn't do. I'm very excited to play with Kelly and Isaac this year. They're two experienced guys and high-ranking guys. It'll be fun. But I'm giving my all to the younger guys, developing them. We have to leave them in good standing so they can continue to push Mississippi State into a high trajectory. What a great mindset, right? A great mindset. And, again, it's not just bringing somebody in that's NFL hungry, somebody that's just coming in and saying, hey, I want to play on the biggest stage possible and show pro scouts what I can do. And he went on to say something I thought was really interesting, too. Like, he called Mississippi State his home, right? And that's one of those things, too, that, we love the place, but you love it when new guys come in and they kind of recognize some of the things that we see, about all this. And again, kind of back to that other comment, he says, I'm so excited. Mississippi State was my first SEC offer, being able to come pour into them. This is my home now. They've accepted me with welcoming hands and welcoming arms. I'm making sure that I do what I've got to do each and every day to pour back. End of quote. I love it, man. I love it. I love guys that come in here to understand it's bigger than them. And listen, we haven't had a lot of bad actors in the last several years. Dan Mullen was a guy that just absolutely wouldn't put up with that kind of stuff, And so, we took some chances on a few guys, and some of them worked out and some of them didn't. And when they didn't, we processed them on out of here. But I think it's fair to say that Jordan Gilbert is a guy that understands what Mississippi State needs from him on and off the field. Ask Cannon Boone about, a joke was to make you're still here, huh? Yeah, and it has been. He got the waiver, and he should have gotten the waiver, right? I mean, this is a guy that had two major injuries and essentially cost him the better part of 2 seasons. And so he goes, hey, obviously there was a little bit of uncertainty there with getting the waiver. Still, I feel like everyone that was in the building and involved in that process was pretty much telling me that it was all said and done. Whenever I got the confirmation, it was really exciting. I was super pumped to come back and start putting in work and ready to get going. And this is a guy that's been with us throughout the Jeff Lebby era, right? He was recruited by Mason Miller, flipped from Virginia Tech to Mississippi State there at the end. And little did we know that he was going to be in our starting center. And it was last spring when people kind of began to chatter a little bit and say, Cannon Boone may be the most improved guy on the offensive line. Now, again, you have to look at that in the proper context. But Cannon Boone has been a guy that we've been able to count on. And I can tell you this, nobody loves playing football better than Cannon Boone does. Coach's kid. He grew up in this, understands everything about it. And, you like guys that kind of grow up with a working knowledge of the game because they have a higher football IQ. And so it doesn't surprise me that he is a guy sliding in to play center because he has a greater understanding of the game than a lot of people do. And he also gets the benefit, and this is one thing that we'll touch on too, he gets DJ Chester, a guy that has played the center position in this league too. And that's a big thing for State too. You got DJ Chester, an SEC veteran on one side, and you got LJ Prudhomme, an SEC veteran on the other side. But Boone said of Chester, it's incredible having him next to me. He and I are super tight. We're always bouncing questions off each other, whether it's stuff we see in practice or stuff we see watching film. Playing with a guy like him is really good for me and really for the entire offensive line. Now, they moved Chester out to tackle at LSU and it didn't go well. And that's because he is not a tackle. Mike can get by playing right tackle, but he's the guy that needs to be on the interior. There are some bigger bodies that are just better for interior play, and there are other guys that got to be outside. And in this league, you better have an extremely athletic left tackle. They put Chester out there to kind of fulfill a team need after he was an all-SEC freshman center. And he has no interest in playing tackle. And I think he will have the chance to be a pro guard or center eventually. So we'll see how things play out with him. But again, there's been a lot of concern about the offensive line. And again, the name that keeps popping up is Jakeem Shumpert. And it's not just Jeff Lebby. It'd be one thing if the head ball coach kind of brings your name up regularly. That's one thing, right? And Jeff's a former offensive lineman. But to hear the other players talk about it, they see it too. And that's the thing too, right? Hey, he doesn't have any snaps, right? He really doesn't. Not any meaningful snaps on the college level. And so it's going to be a trial by fire, but you like to hear that we have another option at tackle. You got Blake Steen, obviously, that can play some right tackle. He can also play some guard if you need him to. Miles McVay is a guy that can move up and down for you. You got Jalen Matthews is another guy that we think has got a lot of potential at tackle. But then all of a sudden you've got a returner. And that's one of the things, too, that excites me is in year one, all of the chatter was about the portal guys, right? So, like, all the best players, Kevin Coleman was bringing this, and Kevin's a freak. Don't get me wrong, that's why he got drafted. But this year, when you begin to think about this roster, who are the players that are making the headlines? It's really the guys that are coming back. It's Kelly Jones. It's Isaac Smith. Trevion Williams moving back inside, getting a shout-out from the coach. It's Cannon Boone, the first offensive lineman to come speak. It's Calvin Dinkins. Right? Those are the things that excite me, is the fact that, hey, we have not only brought in some good players, we have retained some good players, and many of those guys that we're talking about are guys that have been here the entire time with Jeff Lebby. They understand the Lebby culture, the expectations, how we're going to be the same guys every day. That's an important aspect of this that I think at times may be a little bit overshadowed. Is that so many of the guys have been through the ups and downs. And so as a result, I think you're going to see them play with a different level of enthusiasm, not maybe different than the portal guys, but if for a guy like Cannon Boone, he knows what it's like to go 2-10. For a guy like Kelly Jones, he knows what it's like to sit there and watch your team get beat up and really not know enough about your own position to make an appreciable difference until last year. And then all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, go pro, go pro. And he's like, I'm going to come back. One more ride. Isaac Smith, obviously a guy that had plenty of opportunities to leave. Vanderbilt, LSU, others were trying to get him to get in the portal. But he elected to come back. We've talked about that extensively on the show. And so the reason that I think that is so important is it's almost like the Brian O'Connor philosophy, right? That Brian O'Connor talks about, you've got to have a core nucleus of guys that stay with you. And then you supplement that with guys in the portal. And so now we've reached a point on the football side, for the first time in the Lebby era, that we've been able to do that. Look at how many guys were around last year. Like Anthony Evans. That was a guy that could have turned pro. Got some advice and said, hey, go back to school. And he came back. And that was one thing I asked Lev, too. It's like, how do you think coming back year two makes a big difference for Ant? Because, Kevin Coleman was here 1 year. Brennan Thompson was here 1 year. Anthony Evans has been here a year, but he's back for a second year. He had some ups and downs last year, but, really was who we hoped he would be coming in from Georgia. And now all of a sudden you begin to think about, he is the older guy in the room, but he has the benefit of knowing where he's supposed to be in this offense. He's got plenty of reps with Camario, and so there's not this whole get-to-know-each-other process. I think that is an incredibly valuable part of this. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. The best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none, especially when you're bringing a large group to town, and you should. You owe it to yourself to go make some memories with the people you love and care about the most. whether it's family or friends, you just can't beat it. It's so great having everybody under one roof. Whether it's a ball game weekend or you just got some vacation time to spend before you lose it, think about coming and spending some time at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. So close to all your favorite shops and restaurants. Everything is close in Starkville. It's true. But the reality of it is, nothing could be better to have a little peace and quiet in the town you love the most, Starkville, Mississippi. We've stayed there. We had a fabulous time. You will too. Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page will auto-populate, and you can peruse all the pictures of the amenities available to you and your guests, the full-service kitchen, the wet bar, the back porch area, the fire pit area, plenty of parking. You know, it's just a wonderful place to stay. And I can tell you from personal experience, my mom and them had a blast. She asked me last year, are we doing that again? Because it was such a nice time just being able to be a family. And I don't get a chance to do that very often. So to get my mom around her great-grandkids and let her love on them a little bit, you know, make breakfast, just kind of enjoy being a family, you just can't beat it, man. Now, when you do that Google search, you're going to have some booking options pop up. You can go with Airbnb or you can go with Vrbo. If you book through the Evolve website, though, I can save you some money. Book through Evolve and use promo code BSR10. That's BSR10. That gets you 10% off your stay just by listening to this show. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse. Okay, still no word on Jerron Manning or Malik Sela. We're tracking this as closely as we can. And I made a mistake earlier in the week. It was the plaintiffs from the Wisney versus NCAA suit that had until Thursday to file their argument. I thought it was the NCAA had until Thursday to file their response. So, again, what we're hearing is that teams around the Southeastern Conference are waiting for the result of this appeal before they greenlight anybody to come. Now, Indiana's already done it, bringing some players back. I guess maybe two, I think. I have to go back and double check. But they were the first ones to kind of take the plunge. And I think there are some other people that will feel like, okay, well, maybe if we're not alone, we should take a chance here. But also, let's be honest, up at Indiana, they do things a little bit differently, as you guys have seen. I think it's a situation where they'd rather ask for forgiveness than permission. But I think in the Southeastern Conference, there has been just kind of a uniform policy here that we're going to wait it out and see. And again, there's new lawsuits being filed every day, which again is why we need the PCSA to pass so we can, curtail a lot of that stuff. But the reality of it is kind of that's where things sit, and there are some some allegations out there that the NCAA has been disingenuous. The one thing that I would say is that both sides, I think, have made a mistake when it's come to this. Everybody said when they were talking about 5 for 5, well, they should just go ahead and let the seniors do it. Well, first lawsuit was filed 9 a.m. the next morning, right? And so here we are now where you're getting all these rulings at the state court level that is opening the door for these guys to go. But again, you grant all this eligibility, and it's a mistake on Sweeney's part. She says she didn't have the authority to change NCAA transfer rules, and there's probably some truth there, but that has not precluded some state court judges from doing that. And so the law is the law in the entire law of the land, right? So that's kind of where that sits, and it'll probably be next week before we know anything from anybody. And it may be a scenario, too, where the NCAA wins the appeal. They seem to think that the 10th Circuit is going to side with them. I think some of the things that have come out about them being a little bit disingenuous in other court proceedings may work against them. When you're having to fight so many fronts, at times communication's not at its best. And so we'll see how that kind of plays out. But at the end of the day, it's not going to have a major impact on our season either way, I don't think. But, man, it'd be nice to have those guys back. But the thing that I worry about is you got some other players that have been with you throughout the spring and summer that you may have to say goodbye to. And you got to begin to wonder, where are their rights considered in all this too? Because all of a sudden, does that open up another wave of lawsuits? It's like, hey, I had eligibility. I maintained my grade point average. I did what I was supposed to do. I did all my workouts, and now I'm out because the court decided that somebody else that played last year can come back, and they didn't relax the roster limits. And so, this is one of the main reasons the PCA is so important, to give the NCAA limited antitrust exemption here, so we don't have to have all of these lawsuits about eligibility. At some point, you've got to be able to enforce your own rules. It's incredible to me that how this has kind of played out over the last few years. But hopefully, we're getting to some resolution. All right, look at the baseball side of things. As I wrote earlier this morning, we have 4 players still alive in the Cape Cod League semifinals. If you're looking for some baseball to watch this weekend, you can check it out on the Cape Cod League app, or just watch it online. It's available, and it's interesting too as you kind of work through it. Sean James, Jake Saunders, Maddox Webb, and Berkeley Mabius. And he prefers Berkeley, not just Burke. They're still playing, and we should have an update. Let me just take a look here real quick. When we started this show, one game was over, and another was still going on. So they should be over by now. And again, the game 2 in these championship series we play tomorrow. Kind of a wild one there in game 2. So Harwich, which is the team of Sean James, wins 12-9 over Yarmouth Dennis, which is the team with Jake Saunders. And he had a 3-run bomb yesterday. And then the Bourne Braves, who won the Cape Cod League last year, they end up winning today over Hyannis 12-11. Pretty wild game there. So those 2 teams, Harwich and the Bourne Braves, will look to clinch their spot in the Cape Cod League Championship Series tomorrow. The championship series begins on Monday. So times and teams to be determined. But, so some Bulldog summer baseball that you can watch. And it's all wood and bat, in case you guys were unaware. You'll be able to check that out. And then also, too, we're going to have a handful of Mississippi State 2027 commitments playing in the high school all-star game. That's always a good thing, right? Again, it kind of tells us, too, that we're going to be kind of sweating out the draft a little bit, right? No big surprise there. But, so in the MLB Pipeline All-American game, Play Ball is the sponsor. You're going to have 3 2027 Mississippi State commitments. Kyle Meckage, outfielder, left-handed pitcher from IMG. He's a guy that's already on the draft boards. Of course, Sully Reed, probably the biggest of the position players, the biggest draft risk. And then there's Connor Salerno, of course, projected to be the first high school lefty taken in the draft. Probably not a good chance to get him to school. But if you want to watch that game, that's going to be Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, broadcast live on the Major League Baseball networks. If you're somebody that kind of works and keeps a tab muted so you can kind of keep up with something cool, there's some more baseball for you to watch. And so, while baseball ended for the Bulldogs way back in June, we still got some Bulldogs to cheer for in August. And so that's just kind of something to put on your radar as you kind of move forward here. And again, on Saturday, we will have the opportunity to interview more players. It will be an evening media session, so we'll probably get a couple up for you Saturday night and save the other ones for Sunday morning. But you never know. We might get it all done on Saturday. We'll just kind of see how things play out. But it's always interesting opening camp, just because of the fact there's just a lot of exuberance. Guys are ready to go. Your guys feel like they left some meat on the bone last year, and they did. Let's just be honest about it. They did. And now you've got some reinforcements, and it's so good to be in the building, right? And I know for many of you, this week has been a good one for you. because you can go over to Gene's page and it's all of a sudden you can watch your coach or you can watch your players. You can read what everybody's had to say. You can read our observations and practice. Now all of a sudden it's kind of officially kicked off, right? Even though the game itself is still just under a month away, be 4 weeks from Saturday, we got the rumblings of football season kind of off in the distance. And we're excited to be there and, look forward, of course, to providing you guys with as much content as we possibly can as we get ready to take on Louisiana Monroe. A couple other things, too. We didn't have a lot of platitudes on the show. I know some of you guys enjoy those. Some of you guys need to just, stick to sports. But I can't. But the one thing, again, I kind of wanted to speak about here is on the social media side. The tribalism on social media about some of the things that have happened in Mississippi is sad. It's really sad. And nothing has ever changed. Nobody's mind has changed. Nobody uncovers any new evidence to convince somebody else that they're wrong. And, of course, we've had another tragedy in Jackson under some suspicious circumstances. And it just casts such a negative light on our state. And when I see people from out of state say negative things about Mississippi, some of that I take to heart. But some of it I kind of shake my head and say, yeah, that's us. I don't want it to be us, right? And the thing, I've got a great friend. He talks about, the issues. Really, the Mississippi is a microcosm of America. It's just the problems of America are amplified in the state of Mississippi because of our history. And at the end of the day, the thing that I always think about, I never try to look at humanity as an us versus them thing. I know many people do. I look at college that way, like college sports. It's us versus them, But again, I think I've been fair to Ole Miss this offseason when I say Lane Kiffin did his best to screw him over. He did, right? I think Ole Miss benefited from home court advantage with the Trinidad Chambliss thing. I think that's fair too. I think Ole Miss also tampered with Luke Ferrelli at Clemson. That's what I believe. But I also think that they do have a legal precedent and a leg to stand on in these lawsuits against these players who transferred to LSU and didn't pay a buyout. All of those things can be correct, right? You don't have to just say, well, they were right in every case or wrong in every case, because some of this stuff impacts all of us as a whole, right? But when it comes to my fellow Mississippians, when we look at real life, I just don't look at it as us versus them. I grew up in South Mississippi where we don't tolerate disrespect, and the Hatfields and McCoys are a real thing. It's true. But so much of this stuff, I just think, there are some people, there's just no sense engaging with them on certain topics just because of the fact they are so emotionally invested. They're not going to hear any dissenting opinions, no matter how well articulated they are. And so I just have kind of just elected to withdraw from that because I've got some friends that have some very strong opinions about some of this stuff, and I'm happy to hear them out. I just don't offer them any counterpoints. Yeah, I just don't. Just because there becomes a point where you just have to just say, you know what, I'm just going to let them say what they need to say. I'm not going to try to correct them because I may be wrong. But also, too, I just don't want to be on the wrong side of things with my friends. You know what I'm saying? And there's so many people that are often in error but never in doubt when it comes to social media. And it could be about sports. It can be about, politics. It can be about so much, just, daily living or whatever. I mean, I joke with people, one of the main reasons that I have social media is to troll Nirvana fans. But that's just really a joke. But at the end of the day, there are so many things so much more important. And that's all of us just kind of living life together and coexisting and cohabitating and just trying to make sure we get the mortgage paid and the kids fed and keep everybody safe, right? And when something bad happens, I think it's important to let things play out before we pick a side. Because how many times in the past, the very first report that comes out, and of course people in the national media sensationalize headlines for engagement. And so they may not have any circumstances whatsoever or any facts or details or evidence, but they're going to find a way to drive engagement. They are. And so it's important to not be gaslighted, and that's a term that gets misused a lot, but not be gaslighted into believing something, before it's time. And the thing that I go back to, no matter how you slice it, if I lost a loved one under suspicious circumstances, I would want every rock overturned. I would want every witness questioned. It would be all that I could do not to go conduct an investigation myself. It would be so difficult for me to allow law enforcement. I would look for any type of relief that I could get from anybody willing to offer any kind of support. And I had a friend, I've had multiple friends murdered, but I had a friend that lived in South Louisiana that got in an argument with some people at a bar, 3 people at a bar over a game of pool. And we believe they ended up following him home and murdering him. And when I went to the funeral, his next door neighbor was an ear witness to the whole thing. And he said, hey, they're trying to make this thing out to be an accident. It absolutely was not an accident. And to this day, nobody has ever been held accountable for the death of Jason Lebby, ever. And that's a difficult thing to live with. And it's one of those things you kind of have to accept, but it's difficult to do. And so I share that just because of the fact that I can, maybe periodically every few years reach out to detectives down there and see if anything's happened. And there was a time in my life I wanted to take out a billboard and raise money and, But I don't think that we're going to get any justice this side of heaven. I don't. And that's unfortunate. But the reality of it is that I have to move forward with life. And this was somebody, obviously, at one point that was one of my roommates. And so it wasn't just, somebody I went to school with. This is somebody that, I broke bread with nightly for the better part of a year and was involved in my life for multiple years, and he didn't deserve what happened to him. And so I shared that just because I think it's important to understand that there is injustice in the world. And you have to find a way to make your peace with that. And that was one of the things that I used to tell my baseball players when we'd get beat on a bad call or something. I said, guys, you're going to learn there is injustice in the world, and it's how you respond to it that defines you. And I just think it's so important for us. We talk about this stuff all the time, but to truly put some action behind the words and really love each other and give each other grace, it's so important not to get so caught up in the sideshow, right? Well, this happened and you're wrong. And all of a sudden we got people all over the country that are arguing about something, about a situation they really don't know anything about, and about people they don't know anything about. And it's just the next thing. And it's so incredibly disrespectful to all of the people involved. Because all of a sudden people want to have that gotcha moment. They want to prove you wrong. They're not thinking about the other lives that are impacted by what they have to say or post. They want to prove you wrong because you're on the other side of this tribalistic argument. And that's just the wrong way to go through life. That's just my feelings. If you hadn't done so, visit DutyNobleBook.com. You get signed copies of all my sports titles. That's Stark Villains, Flim Flam, Alpha Dogs, Dogpile, The Dude, and When the Bottom Falls. Everything ordered through the website is also signed. And so you can have your own signed copy of all that stuff. A lot of Mississippi State sports history. And come float with us, the True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. I need to go float. I can tell a difference in my sleep pattern for sure. You can dial 662-268-7601, and you can speak directly to my lovely wife, Dana. You can tell her you heard about her and the spa on the show, and let her know how great I am. That's always good, since I'm your good friend, right, and host. Maybe kind of help your boy out a little bit, And come join us over at genespage.com. 60% off the annual subscription price for a limited time only. That's going to do it, man. Be back with you guys on Monday. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.